everyone to our Choreo Chat. My name is Dana Woodruff, and I'm the Professional Program Coordinator for Dance Canvas. And today I'm joined by TereLyn Jones, and she's one of our 2019-2020 choreographers. Welcome, TereLyn.
Thank you.
So I'd like to begin just by checking in. You know, how are we doing right now? That's a big question.
Well, all is well. Everything is good. Taking it a day at a time, given the climate. All is well. Everything's okay.
Let's rewind. Let's go back to before.
Yes.
Like everything changed. You started this piece. Can you talk a little bit about your inspiration for the piece and the process a little bit?
Sure. I started the piece Prisoners of Time. It was a piece that I was interested in due to hearing an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I had started working on it at Howard University for their spring concert. However, once I was accepted as a choreographer for Dance Canvas, the entire thing changed. Okay. It was originally set as a concert dance piece, where it was ballet and contemporary ballet, modernish kind of piece. And as I went back to look at the video and really think about if what I wanted to say or if the statement of what was being said came across, I felt like I could probably tap a little bit more into the theatrical world. Yeah. And also make it a little bit more pedestrian as opposed to dancey, so that it's a little bit more kind of like black and white, like literal, a little bit more literal as opposed to an artistic expression. Even though the artistic expression is still there for the piece, it's just been extremely innovative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you got into this process, what came up for you? Were there any things that you didn't anticipate happening? Like, yeah.
Well, number one, the thing that I didn't anticipate happening was COVID hit.
Right.
And what was originally staged became a dance film. So because of all the work that I know myself and all of the choreographers and the Dance Canvas staff had put into this production, I didn't want it to go to waste because we had fundraised, purchased costumes. So I just decided to just make lemonade out of lemons, or what seemed to be a bag of lemons, and created a dance film with the piece. So some things that changed was it's very huge difference in creating film by taking a piece off the stage, because it's just viewed frontal, like from the front. And when you take and when you create a film, yes, it's okay to film it from the front, but because it's so there's so many dynamics, you can do zoom ins on the facial expressions, you can tell the story a little bit better, so it become like cinematography. So yeah, that changed a lot. Like even with certain movements, actually pulling facial expressions or just asking the dancers, what does this make you feel? Even though we were on the route of that for the performance for the show, doing it for film, it caused more of that.
Right. How did you handle, like, what was the time frame from when you shifted gears to, you know, having this, because we were about to go into the theater, like a week away from being in the theater when everything shut down. So it was a huge shock, right, to everyone. What was the time frame between that incident and then the film, like actually filming?
Once I found out that we weren't, once we found out that the show was being postponed, because it kind of kept getting inched away. Yes. I think the time frame was about a week later.
Okay, so fast.
Maybe, yeah, it was very fast because I kind of felt like everything was going to start shutting down, because I have friends in New York and their rehearsals had started being canceled. So, and I'm like, okay, but these are huge productions you don't have much time, Terry. You need to go ahead. If you're going to make a film, you have to do it like quick.
Yeah.
So it was about 4 to 6 days where I had to call, find a venue, ask the dancers if they were okay with that, you know, because we're also talking about a virus that we don't really have much information about, and just going by, but I don't even know if the CDC guidelines were out yet. You know, they was just like,
I don't think so.
Yeah. And it was like, do you guys feel comfortable with this? This is what I can do. I think hand sanitizer is good. Lysol is good. You know? So we weren't even wearing masks then.
Right.
We weren't. Once I had everything on film, like everything else was like up to me and just figuring out how to work with someone who can help me edit it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what is your background with dance on film, because it's a whole separate, you know, entity from concert dance.
Mm-hmm. This would be probably my second dance film. My first dance film was Hidden Sanctuary, where I like to write, so I created a poem, and I decided to put movement to the poem, and I also decided that, okay, well, this needs to be a film. But what really, the background of that, what really happened was I was accepted into a festival.
Yeah.
And my friend and I were at a cafe, and we were setting our goals, and we're like, oh, let's like apply for this festival. So I'm applying for the festival. Maybe like a week later, she's like, hey, I got accepted as one of the choreographers. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then my acceptance came in, and it was as a film, to be a film director, like to submit a film. So I'm like, what? So I go back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was rushing, and I clicked to submit a film.
Okay.
However, because I didn't want to contact and say, hey, it was a mistake, you know, I just was like, you know what, let me just rise to the occasion. I do have interest in this. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. So that's how I got involved into the film.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, just like a happy mistake, like a
it was a happy mistake. Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
For this film, I actually worked with a lot of people. I worked with like choreographers that kind of take me under their wings, and different instructors who I've taken their class, or people who I work with, and I just asked them to come in to look at it.
Right.
Without even telling them what it's about. I asked them to come in. Of course, you give them like a little gift bag for coming, but a lot of them, they were like, okay, yes, well, how about this, or how about that? Like, just kept my wheels turning. And even reached out to those who I know who are very notable in the film dance industry, and sent over edits and say, hey, what do you think about this? What about this shot? Maybe the shot needs to come up a little bit slower. So I was able to communicate with them as well.
Can I ask a little bit about your background, your dance background, and performing and all of that stuff?
Sure. So I went to Tri-Cities High School in East Point, Georgia. I was a part of the dance department there. Upon graduating, I went to Howard University to major in dance and English.
Okay.
My senior year, I was offered a contract with Garth Fagan Dance Company in Rochester, New York. So I danced there. When I left there, I worked with Ray Mercer and did a couple of things with the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. Did a lot of gigs around the DMV area, and then I traveled over to Europe to dance with Disney's Tarzan.
Okay.
And I stayed there for about 1.5 years. And then once my contract was over, I think, well, the show was starting to shut down. So I came back over. So, and I've been working here ever since.
Okay. And how do you feel? I mean, this question just popped into my head. Like, since you grew up here, like, is there a shift in the dance community here from the time you were here as a younger person to when you came back as a professional? Like, have you noticed any differences?
I think I think the shift is probably Atlanta has become a lot more commercialized.
Okay.
But because they're two different worlds, like you're either a commercial dancer or you're training for the concert dance.
Okay.
And sometimes it's very rare that, you know, dancers on both sides that switch both sides. Because I left immediately after high school and I didn't return for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I don't really know the climate of where it was when I was younger. I just know going to school, going to the studio, going home. Right. So I'm not really sure. I know I was dancing with Matt Lethnick. I went to Price Performing Arts, and I also did a couple of scholarships with the Atlanta Ballet. So
okay. So I know that you worked a little bit with the Centers of Hope and the DC. We have a DC Next program that you worked with those students a little bit this past year. What was that like? And what did you talk to them about? What was that like? I guess
it was pretty cool. I think that everyone was very receptive. I tell them, follow your dream, do the work, and enjoy the journey. I think that's something I say to every class and everyone who I usually teach. And I say, follow your dream because like everyone has some sort of passion. There is something there. And then some students say, well, they don't really know yet. And I'm like, okay, well, you can identify it by understanding what it is that you enjoy. Like what kind of feeds your heart, what brings a smile on your face. Right. Do the work because you have to do the work. You have to have an like impeccable work ethic because so many people could have the same dream as you. So many people could want to do the same thing as you. And a lot that separates you is like if your work ethic precedes you, if you don't have a good work ethic or good habits, that could kind of like, you can eliminate yourself. Right. And then enjoy the journey because sometimes it's not really a straight road, you know. It has twists and turns and discoveries and other passions that you may discover along the way. Thinking about like, you know, just the people who trained you and you were influenced by, is there anyone that kind of sticks out maybe? Yes. Of course. Sherelle Berryman Johnson, who was my advisor from college. She passed. But she was a huge, like, she's probably like the staple of why and where I am and how I carry myself in the dance industry and outside of the dance industry. Like she made me a tough cookie. So Ronald K. Brown, I did all of my internships with him. I never came home during the summertime. I was always doing an internship with the company. Garth Fagan, Camille Brown. I mean, but they're not really in my past. And Jewel Lane. Yeah. Lonnie Davis. Yeah, they all could, like, I was able to receive from them, and I try to give back, but even when I see them, they're always pouring out. So Pat Thomas, yeah. Thinking along the lines of like, you know, being a choreographer in this climate, what do you see in the future? Or do you see anything in the future? Like I mean, in general, not just you, but like the climate of being a working choreographer right now. What are your thoughts about that? My thoughts are like forward movement, like nothing, like to me in my head, nothing ever stops. Right. It's just another way of thinking about it or around it to make whatever needs to happen. And I think that also comes from my training at Howard University. Like no is never the answer. It's how about? You know, how do you get it done? Yeah. And there's always, if there's a will, there is a way. Like, so being a choreographer in this climate, you just got to figure that thing out. So my head is forward movement. Terry, what does forward movement mean? Okay, cool. Well, we can't choreograph or we can't touch. Okay, what can you do? Like, how is your brain turning artistically, or how is your brain turning academically? What does that mean? How do you move forward? How would you like to move forward? Even, for example, with Dance Canvas, like, I really enjoyed choreographing that piece. And I was like, this is not going to waste. We put too much work into it. What can I do? Okay, let's do this. Okay, let's try this. Let's try this, and let's try this. And it becomes, and it grows into something else. And that something else is what it was supposed to be, even though you didn't know that is what it was going to become. So not to say that it can't still be on the stage, it can, but it's also this as well. So
yeah, I hope that it gets on the stage.
Yeah.
Because that would be wonderful, you know, to fulfill that, you know, path that you work so hard, and you know, your dancers work so hard on. But you're right, like, you have to kind of just take everything in the moment and say, like, okay, you know, I could lay down and, you know, surrender, or I can, you know, figure this thing out. And I think, you know, being able to think on your feet is a huge plus. Like, that's a huge skill. And I think that's an amazing thing to teach your kids too, your students, to be able to be adaptable, because you have to be, and that's, you know, part of dance training is to be adaptable, right? To whatever style you're given, you have to be able to do that style, right? Or, you know, if there's a choreographic challenge, you have to be able to come up with some kind of solution. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. And we are going to be putting on some rehearsal snippets to watch of your work. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Time is